now present For the Record.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us for the Record. I'm Dana Fulton. Naomi Coles has the week off. From boating to swimming to ice fishing or just enjoying the sunset on the terrace, there are so many opportunities to enjoy Wisconsin natural waterways. So many of our cities are built around lakes and rivers: Madison, Milwaukee, the Dells. And each local economy thrives due to having that natural resource nearby. Each of our smaller communities also. Wisconsin has more than 15,000 lakes and 32,000 miles of rivers and streams. The water is everywhere. And today we're going to focus on our waterways, what happens when we have too much water and too little, and how climate change is painting our future. Joining us first this morning is Hein with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Good morning.
Good morning.
And right now, I mean, it's summer, so a lot of folks are out in the water. It seems more top of mind. What is the conversation that's happening in the DNR currently with the health of our waterways?
Well, actually right now we're doing this big national lakes assessment. We're out sampling 50 lakes in Wisconsin to look at the water quality. And of course, you know, from day to day, people, you know, are out swimming. There's concerns always about these harmful algal blooms. Is the water safe to swim in? Is it safe for my dog to swim in? So we get a lot of calls with people asking those kind of questions too.
When we are talking about the algal blooms, it's usually the heavier rainfall events, right, that lead to those runoff concerns, or how does that spark up?
Yeah, I mean, that certainly contributes to it. It's not only during those heavy rain events, but that is one thing we're seeing with climate change is more and more rain. Overall, this last decade was the wettest decade we have on record, and we're seeing more of these extreme rain events, so really large amounts of precipitation in a short amount of time. What that does is that it makes the water kind of wash into the lakes and wash nutrients and sediment in with it. And those nutrients are what fuel the algal blooms.
So the runoff is the concern, because people hear that, you know, we have a lot of rain events. Sometimes the rain can be a good thing, but when we have too much at one time, that's what's leading to the runoff, right?
That and then what's in it. So then what's on our land, you know, if we have fertilizers and, you know, stuff coming off from the stormwater from our cities, that's where then the contaminants come with the water.
Sure. And what all are you diving into right now as far as things that are washing into? What are the concerns there?
Mostly phosphorus. That's one of the nutrients that really fuels algal blooms. Nitrates. Those are kind of the two big ones for thinking about algal blooms.
And you said you were working on a study right now with our lakes. What is the next step? What is going forward? What are you guys monitoring?
Well, we monitor the phosphorus for sure, and the chlorophyll, which is the algae in the water. We're monitoring for things like E. coli and algal toxins. So the cyanobacteria, when you see those really green waters, sometimes that can be cyanobacteria, and those can produce algal toxins, and those present a health concern for people and for dogs. So.
It's a lot of scary words there.
Yeah.
If folks are concerned, we were talking briefly beforehand, there are ways that people can kind of help the health of our lakes, right? What are some steps that you can take at home, or just while you're at the park, or you're out enjoying the waterways?
Yeah, I mean, so some of, like, just for your own safety, you know, look at the water. One of my colleagues kind of recommends, if you can't see your feet when you're in knee-deep water, you shouldn't be swimming. So, you know, if you see that kind of green paint slick on the water, don't get in the water. But as far as trying to clean up our lakes and streams and trying to prevent you know, the amount of runoff from happening, there's a lot we can do on the land. And so we could look at it from like the private individual at your house. You can plant trees, you can have rain gardens, anything to slow the flow of water and have it infiltrate and stay there. At the county level and bigger levels, you know, we want to be protecting our wetlands and restoring wetlands and thinking about, we call it green infrastructure. So it's just having less impervious surface, less concrete, and more green space. You know, those plants can take up the water.
Yeah, and talking about our wetlands, we had a conversation a few days ago. Folks might not always appreciate our swamps or our wetland areas, but those are important, right?
They're really important.
The entire ecosystem, the entire water cycle, right?
Think about it kind of this your safety button, because you're able to, the wetlands can hold on to that water and process the water and kind of clean the water up for us.
So that's a lot of where we're at right now. The concern, of course, is looking ahead with climate change, with warmer temperatures, warmer water temperatures, those heavier rain events. How are you seeing climate change impact our waterways, our natural waterways?
Right. It's just sort of making some of the problems we've had already, intensifying those more, right? So we already had like a lot of nutrients on our landscapes that are getting into the water and causing these algae blooms. But now with these more extreme rain events, we can see more and more coming in. So that's where we just have to work, double down even harder on doing our conservation practices and trying to improve, there's a lot that farmers are doing too. I just wanted to mention, like, they call it keeping crops or cover crops. So having plants growing in the fields in the off seasons when they're not growing the crops for production, because then the plants with the roots will hold the soil in place. Things like that we can be doing on the landscape to try to improve our water.
Because it's all part of a bigger picture.
It is, yeah, it's all connected.
Yeah, it's like when we're talking about weather, the atmosphere is all fluid, and when we're talking about our environment, nature doesn't know county lines. Nature is it's all fluid and moving forward. Anything else last minute? If folks want to check out more information as far as the current status of our waters, whether beaches are open or more information on that study you were talking about, how can they find that?
Well, one thing I would just direct people to is our Wisconsin Initiative on Climate Change Impacts webpage. It's wicci.wisc.edu. There's a lot of information about climate change and the connection with water there.
Okay, wonderful. Katie, thank you so much for your time this morning. Very grateful. Next up, we're going to move a little bit in the opposite direction. What happens when there isn't enough rainfall? We're going to focus more on droughts right after the break.